By request, we have It Ain't Necessarily So, a song from the opera Porgy and Bess, which is written by George Gershwin. This is a clarinet piano arrangement, so I'm just going to play through the clarinet part, no repeats, and then we'll take a look at it and try and make sense of it all. So what we have here is a piece in cut time. So that in itself creates this added challenge to trying to interpret the rhythms in this, because intuitively, kind of think of it in 4/4 time, and you got pineapple, pineapple, but it's in cut time. So suddenly you're playing the triplets you're used to. Da 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 da. That idea of three in these three notes in the space of one. The triplet that you first learn how to play. But so it's a bit of, that's how they've interpreted this. I'm not actually quite sure how it's written in the original Gershwin. So let's say we're in 4/4 time. This is what you would typically do if you're just starting a cut time piece and you're not quite sure what's going on. And sometimes instead of just thinking 2, which is can be quite long floaty beats, sometimes it's nice just to break it down into 4/4 time. And if we were to do that and we were to pick your moderato speed, pineapple, 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 that is the groove that we're trying to establish. So we can slow it down. Pineapple, pineapple, elephant, elephant, and of course for all the Star Wars fans out there, Skywalker, Palpatine, Chewbacca, you just got to keep this groove going. It's really, really important when trying to learn a triplet that you don't chase the note as if they were the beat. It is this 3 against 2. That's the whole point of a triplet, is we got 3 in the space of 2. So pineapple, pineapple. So just forgetting cut time right now, let's just try and play that and we're trying to keep that groove going. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and pineapple, pineapple, like this. So remember, we've got to get back to our original count, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so these important subdivisions that one must have established in their head. So let's pretend we're in 4/4, not cut time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so that first bar is going to be pineapple, pineapple, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and pineapple, pineapple, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and pine. Now that will really lock in that timing. And this is the challenge of someone trying to learn from ear. So they might hear the music, and if they've got a good sense of groove, maybe they're a dancer, maybe for them it just locks in perfectly. For others who try and learn from ear, doesn't quite stick. It's there, but not quite there, and it's the rhythm. It's always the rhythm where it all starts to just not quite feel quite secure. So it's very, very important to feel that groove, these subdivisions. Okay, and then we have these triplets just keep on going, and this is where the challenge is. You just gotta keep that groove going and not lose your sense of, again, this do da 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 da, one and a two and a pineapple. This 3 against 2 feel. It's challenging to keep going because, as I say, sometimes people they'll start doing it pineapple, and then they'll start going, and then their beats align with the notes they're playing, and it doesn't quite feel right. Enough talking. Let's play. Okay, so at this point, let's look at some clarinet fingering technique. Unfortunately, there isn't too many shortcuts you can do here. From the beginning, it's just keep your fingers as close as you can to the keys. Now, later on though, at the very, very end of the second line, we do have this across the break thing. Now, across the break can be challenging for people, but we have C to A. So we're going from like one finger at the very, very top here to lots of fingers. Bear in mind that your right hand can be down, and it's not going to affect that A very much. So your right hand can be down as we're playing this A. So don't feel like you have to move all the fingers to go from C to A to C to A. You can keep your C key down, or your right hand down. And just remember to play that A. You don't have to pick up in place. You're just leaning up into that key. It's because of the way it's shaped in the pivot forces of the mechanism. We can just lean upwards, and it'll easily make that pad lift. All right, the Allegro giocoso. We are suddenly in 2/4 time. We'll come back to the cut time idea, but let's move on to the giocoso. We're in 2/4 time, so we've completely changed our count here. We've now got a lot of semi-quavers. How do you count semi-quavers? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, oh, we're only got 2 beats to a bar. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E, and it's really, really important to feel that groove. So I'm gonna go really, really slow. There's a good chance that might not help you much. So let's break it down even further. Let's take that dotted quaver, semi-quaver tied to the crotchet right from the get-go. How do we make sense of that? How do we make that absolutely perfect? Well, take the first crotchet, just think semi-quavers. Ta 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 ta, 1 E and a 2, like this. Okay, ta 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 ta, ta 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 ta. So now what we're doing is joining the first 3 together. And we're joining the next 2 together. So we've got ta da da bum, but underlying it all is, caterpillar, caterpillar, 1 E and a 2 E and a, and then you'll get that really snappy semi-quaver feel. Okay. And of course, we've got an accent there. Think of accents as miniature diminuendos. You hit them and you got to fall away. If you never fall away, you won't ever really get an accent feel. You end up with this giant kind of wall of sound. So the accent is all about bam, bam, it comes away. So when you hit that D flat, which with your tongue, of course, ta 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 ta. See, we've come down to a simmer. When you bring the next note back, sure, it'll be loud. It won't be at the simmer volume. But you'll get that nice accent effect. And then we keep on going. All right, another jump. We have a B flat to a C. However, we've got an alternative fingering that we could use for this. But first of all, we'll just do the normal fingering that everyone knows. So B flat, again, we can have that right hand down, and technically we now only have to move our left hand. Now I personally can do that reasonably fast. Some people may find that challenging. So let's learn a new fingering. If we play B flat, and we've got these side keys here on the right hand side, if we play a B flat and push both those top two side keys down, we'll get a C. It won't sound really nice, and on different instruments it will sound different, like slightly out of tune, slightly fuzzy. Some may not want both of them down. I think maybe even just the top key might sound better on some instruments. However, on my one, B flat, add those two top side keys. It's a fun way, or a different way of playing that C. Of course, now that you're way up there, we've got a long way to go to get down to B flat, which is the next bar. So pick your poison. So if you're going that speed, you could probably make it in time once this really starts to ramp up, because it does say like a savage outburst. No, my music probably goes a little bit faster. Bam bam ba da bam da 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 da. It's pretty motoring. All right, so the next bar. The next bars, right? Tonguing speed. It's quite a fast tongue. For me personally, my tongue is always like pretty much touching that reed, and by being right there all the time, it just the littlest movements I can go and get a reasonably fast single tongue. Okay. But these are the types of things that will, of course, take time and playing before you can start to ramp up that speed. We have an accent, just to create that extra flavor. Okay. The good old semi-quaver, quaver, semi-quaver rhythm, which you see quite a lot in funk music. I'm a big fan of this groove. Again, let's break it down in the semi-quavers. Imagine we just had this first chunk of 4 semi-quavers. 1 E and a 2 E and a da. We'd have this. Ta 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 ta. That is the subdivision. 1 E and a 2. Now we're going to join the 2 middle ones together. Hopefully that rhythm will make sense now. You'll see it on the page, you'll associate it with what you've been hearing in the recordings that you may have heard, and then it'll be like, oh, and then that with the counting techniques, it'll all start to make sense. They all reinforce each other. What you hear, what you see, what you're playing, what you've been counting, they all start to reinforce each other, and then the music will make a lot more sense. And then a big fermata, big dramatic pause. And then the tune comes back again. So for now, let's just find our 4 crotchet beats of the bar. We have and pineapple. Okay, so a word about phrasing now. If we just lay into it, we're going to get this wall of sound, but we want to try and shape things. This is where we have to be quite good with our stomach muscles. We've got to kind of lean air through the instrument, but then at the end of the phrase we've got to then back off the lean. There's still a bit of push, okay, but we've got to, it's like picking up a heavy object, and then we're going to put down this heavy object so that we can put the phrase down, put the dynamic down to give it a sense of finish. Okay, we've put the sound down, the dynamics. So I'm kind of ramping up the dynamic quite suddenly. Da, 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 holding it, because it sounds dramatic, it's an opera after all. But then you got to back off. Da, 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 da. And at this point, you got to imagine, hey, be a singer. Be part of the opera here. We're merely just being a singer with an instrument stuck in our mouth. So we've got to try and capture that. And using pretty much the same techniques. So this phrase is very much like the beginning, so the same tricks with the fingering techniques. We have slurs. I quite like them. And then there's opportunities to retongue, but it's a very smooth section. Of course, pianists can't not tongue, so of course slur just ultimately means smooth, but we can get very smooth because we can negate the tonguing. Alright, let's just keep going for now. We'll try and hunt down some fingering techniques. We'll still keep thinking 4 crotchet beats of the bar. Yeah, I think that's the next section. Okay, so what do we have here? C, B flat, A flat, okay, we have an E flat here. You have a choice. You can choose between your banana key, 2 fingers and the little banana key right there. Or I like to always just use a side key. That's totally fine. And again, we're singing da 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 da. So you want to lean into some of these notes. Da 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 da. And musical setup wise, eventually when you can get harder reeds, the harder reeds offer more resistance for you to push against. The problem with the soft reed, as much as they're easier to blow, they do respond too quickly. So it's kind of hard to kind of like think like strong through the notes, because it's just suddenly there's sound coming out, and then they kind of lock up a little bit. It's hard to describe. So this is where the harder reeds come in handy. But of course, you can only go so hard, and then you get tired too quickly. So again, we've got this pineapple, then we've got dotted crotchets with quavers, so we've got to be thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So we've gone from the triplet feel into the quaver feel. Pineapple, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Tunes come back. Oh, okay, I missed the quaver there. So it's kind of repeating the tune. Then this piece has to feel like it's finishing off. It's just a little solo clarinet piece after all. And so now we have the little the wrap up. You won't get this in the opera, I don't think. This piece's arrangement's own interpretation or own way of finishing the tune. So fingering wise, it's all fairly ordinary. So we've got, and the last line we have an F natural to an F sharp. This is a perfect opportunity for your banana key F sharp. So, so I'm just looking at bar 49, I'm just making sure I'm getting that triple right. So 1 and 2, pineapple, pine. So we're just continuing the pineapple. They change the rhythm up there for some reason. They make the leading note part of the triplet. Okay, sorry, I'm just making sure I'm not leading anyone astray here. All right, and we've got a rallentando at the end. It's getting really high now. You're probably super exhausted because you just played through an entire piece. Good luck. Okay, so your chops are probably really working hard. And the only way that you'll ever get good at this is just lots and lots of playing and not being afraid of playing high notes and just holding long things. And not being afraid for it to squeak and all that good stuff. Okay, let's, got a few more things I want to try and cover here. One being some decorations, and two, we really should touch on the fact that it's in cut time. But I don't want to stress the cut time because I feel like it can still be successfully counted in 4/4 and you're not really doing the tune any injustice. It doesn't feel like it's begging to be in cut time. But the whole point of cut time is to have less beats. Okay, if you have 4 beats to a bar, it's very busy. Pineapple, pineapple. Now if we take away those, we get this nice floaty effect. Okay, and it just the music just kind of moves a little bit better. It has this momentum that builds. So let's just try that now. Now this of course is now going to put your 3 in the space of a minim because you're counting now minims. Pineapple, 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 pine. So it's going to be a bit trickier. And it's trickier because of also the lead-ins and things. Suddenly you have to think of it in a slightly different way. So, 1E and 2E. But see, it kind of floats a little bit more. But of course, now we have to think of those lead-ins. We've got to think of them more like, kind of like what we'd think of normally as semi-quavers. Da, 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 caterpillar, caterpillar, pineapple, pineapple. Because now everything is a slightly different proportion. Well, the proportion's the same, slightly different, way of consuming space. Luckily in the 2/4, it's exactly the same. And then you bring back your tune. Right, so now some little decorations. You may hear recordings out there from little solo excerpts like this, where the clarinetist has little grace notes and little turns and things which just kind of beauty it up, for example. I'm going to go from the beginning. Now, instead of doing a little vanilla version of the tune, you might sometimes hear this. Right, so what am I doing here? I'm just adding a little singular grace note before any note that seems like it could do with one. So in this case, I'm just doing an A flat or a G sharp. There's A flats in the music, so we'll say A flat just before the A. So rather than going, I'm just adding a little decorative note. And that is one of the cheapest ways of suddenly making this piece sound like a little bit more, creative, like there's something else in there. And there's many places we could do this. So let's have a look at the middle section. So we have these A's, A, do-ba-da-ba-do-ba-do-ba-da, and I just lead them up with a G sharp or an A flat. You probably say G sharp here because then you at least have the notes on different lines. And then I put another one in afterwards, a little G sharp. And then I did another one, a little D sharp into the E. Now you wouldn't want to, of course, overdo this, but it's just showing how easy it is to put them in. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. You could sometimes go even a little bit longer. We might do more than just a single note. Sometimes you could do a little run, so you're just backing up a few more extra notes. But that's getting into kind of chromatic scale territory. But it all starts from a single little grace note. So you start with one singular grace note and then maybe just tack on or add a few more extra notes and you get these nice little runs. But at the end of the day, they're either a scale, in this case we're kind of in D minor, or a chromatic scale, putting more notes. The more notes you put in, the kind of smoother the effect. But you don't necessarily have to do a full chromatic. All right, what else might have been going on? Some vibrato. So vibrato is almost a very challenging thing to describe in itself, but think of you're playing a note, but we never fully squeeze, clarinetists, we're a little bit too tight a lot of the time. We want it to be backed off a little bit. And because we are now backed off, we can now flex up and back inside our mouth. Again, it's kind of, you got to think like a vocalist. It's a little bit of a compression, so there will be a feeling of squeezing the reed, but really it's a lot of the back of the tongue lifting. So by that movement, you might feel like your bottom lip is squeezing the reed, and it might happen as somewhat of a side effect, but it's very much that vocalist style vibrato. Now, sometimes the piece doesn't afford vibrato, but if you want to put some vibrato in there you go. The last thing I did was like a little turn. And what have I done there? Basically another grace note, but with two of them. So in this case, I went from G, A, G, F. So these are just decorations. You don't really like write these down mathematically here. You might put a couple of grace notes. They take up no time. You're just decorating notes. The core rhythm is still there. And these are a couple of little cheap ways just to embellish the music a little bit so you're not just doing like a vanilla version of this arrangement. And that is pretty much all I have to say about this piece. Yeah. I probably didn't adhere perfectly to the dynamics. There's a lot of mezzo forte and I probably played a little bit louder. But remember, dynamics are a relative thing. A lot of the time, if you just say it, say you've got a bass line, if you can use your stomach muscles to push it volume louder, so you've got a crescendo and you can back off again back to that bass line, which might be an EMF, then you're pretty much adhering to the dynamics. They don't want to be over prescriptive here, like they don't want to micromanage the way that you do shape and crescendos and diminuendos. That's up to you as the interpreter of the music. Okay, and I'm pushing it all over the place. You gotta imagine you're the vocalist, and then you can really bring this piece of music to life. So that is It Ain't Necessarily So.